Infrastructure is crumbling and the problems are only getting worse. The pressure to find solutions is hot. Let's talk about why American cities have no water, no electricity, and no money to fix their infrastructure problems. Welcome to the Infrastructure Hot Seat Podcast, hosted by Chad Smeltzer.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Infrastructure Hot Seat Podcast. My name is Chad Smeltzer. I am your host. Thank you for joining us. Today is Series 1, Episode 2 of the Infrastructure Hot Seat Podcast, where we interview CEOs of the companies that are making a difference in our communities, helping us fix infrastructure. Our guest today is John Squillace, who is the founder, CEO, and president of the Helix Wireless Corporation. They're located in Monmouth, Junction, New Jersey. They have 11 employees, and the company was founded in 2019. Helix offers a full suite of global cellular connectivity for IoT and business use cases. They are disrupting the status quo of telecom. They are allowing custom solutions to be created, deploying faster, more flexible, and more control to their clients. The Helix SOLO Platform allows their clients to manage plans, activate, view usage, and many more functions while being controlled in the cloud. This unique approach enables businesses of all sizes to benefit from high performance and regulatory compliant connectivity on a global scale. I know John personally, and what he is doing is providing solutions where multiple carriers can be connected to sewer, water devices, and provides a solution to engineering firms so that they can deploy their flow meters or water meters and connect to those devices so that it transmits data back and forth using their multi-dimensional, I guess you would say, SIM card, letting them connect to multiple carriers, which gives us more signal when we're looking to find real-time data with those flow meters or those water meters as well. Anyway, I appreciate everyone joining us. Follow us, subscribe to our platform. I thank you so much for your time for listening, and I hope you enjoy it. And with that being said, here's John Squillace.
Hi, everyone. This is Chad Smeltzer, the CEO of BigTermit.com. Welcome to the Infrastructure Hot Seat. Today, I bring John Squillace. You got to pronounce it. Just do it.
Yeah, that's not the first time that's happened.
Squillace. The Helix Wireless CEO and owner, right? Is that correct, John?
Yeah, I am the founder and CEO. I don't fully own all of it anymore, but I did at one point. So that is factually accurate, depending on what you're talking about.
One part of raising capital is losing the equity of your company. That's the way it goes.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm excited to have you on, man, because you and I went through an accelerator together. That's how we met. We started hanging out there, just doing weekly classes and talking about, how to raise capital, how to talk to investors, all these things that a lot of software businesses in general have to learn. So it's super excited to have you here. I appreciate your time. And I'm going to start it off with a little bit of history about you. How did you get to this point to start Helix Wireless? And let's start there.
Yeah. So, we started Helix 3 years ago, 2019, August 19th. So we just had our third birthday.
Congrats, man. That's
so
awesome.
Very excited about that. Thank you. How I got into telecom is a bit of a longer story. I was a kid growing up looking for a job, right? I was trying to go to college, and I applied to Verizon. They hired me. I started selling phones in the stores, right?
Yeah.
I was there for 14 years. Retail channel for 6, and then overhead and different, marketing, sales, operations, integrations, like all different kinds of jobs for the last 8 or 8.5, whatever it was. And so I was just there, and then it was just available to me, and I went on this kind of crazy career path in a job that I thought I was going to keep for a summer. It was a bit of it wasn't the plan, right? The plan wasn't to go work for a Verizon and go into telecom and do these other things. And, I've always had kind of a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, but I've also never been the first guy to be like, yeah, let's do that crazy thing. I'm always like, you do that. You call me when it works out. Okay.
Yeah.
So I did my tour at Verizon, and I learned so much, and it opened my eyes to to so many different things and the way businesses are run. Just like there's such a dichotomy from when you're like 12 years old and you're like, this is what I want to do when I grow up.
Right.
And there's some little kid and he's like, I'm going to be a businessman. And that little guy has no idea, like no clue what going to a meeting is actually like. Right.
Yeah.
And like the follow-ups and then the fact that you have to like, it's just like in the movies, you go and you watch a movie and they have one meeting and they're like, well, you know what, Chad, we're going to do this and we're all going to go left. And from there, and and he goes, well, no, I don't think that. Well, and then they actually make a decision in the meeting, right? Like it's actually a meeting.
Yep.
And in real life, you have that conversation happens and then you have 15 more meetings until a decision is actually made, right?
Yeah.
And like nothing really prepares you for that. Like you go to school or you have conversations with people and they don't tell you like, dude, you're going to try really hard and you're going to make this awesome presentation and everyone's going to love it. And they're still not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like so I went through that kind of on my own. And Chad, I'm a big I told you so guy. I really am. Right.
Yep.
So when I was quitting Verizon and looking for something else to do, I'm like, okay, how do I get back into telecom? I had full transparency. I quit Verizon. I went to a software firm. I was there for 8 months.
Yeah.
I was miserable. I hated it. So I left there. And then I'm thinking about how I can get back into telecom.
Right.
And so it was the opportunity to start my own MVNO, right? And I talked to my mentor list, right?
Yeah.
And every single one of them was like, John, what are you, nuts? Like, what are you, crazy? Like it's one of the most difficult things to do because there's so much money in the market and there's people with big ideas in the market.
Right.
And like, who the heck are you and why do you think you'd be successful?
Right.
And that's why I started that statement off with, I'm kind of a big I told you so guy because I was like, all right, let me go do that then. Like that you just put the chip on the shoulder. Now I'm going to go do it. And then I can tell you that I did it later. Right.
The entrepreneur drive, man. That's the greatest thing is being I told you so. It's great. It's great to be able to do that. Now, when you were there at Verizon, you obviously learned a lot about the industry and you wanted to pivot into a new career, which I totally get. 14 years in Verizon, that's a long time. I was the same way. 10 years into a business, I was like, I gotta switch. I went through the whole company. I just got burned out. I just learned everything about it. Now I need another challenge, right? We're very challenge-driven people. Ironically, from the East Coast too, which is I grew up in Pennsylvania, you grew up in Jersey, so it's always good to relate.
Kindred spirits. We're
exactly,
kindred
man. We're driven people. You either survive or you die in the streets out in the East Coast. That's kind of the way I look at it. It's like
that's so true.
It's no joke. Like you got to learn how to be. You got two choices: be a drug dealer or learn how to be an entrepreneur.
I think like 4 choices, but
okay, maybe 4 choices. But seriously, though, drug dealers were like huge back then. When I was a kid, and stuff is like selling drugs. You can make a shit ton of money, and that's the way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
that's the way.
Not that I know much about that world, Chad.
Not me either, but I'm just saying. It's if I wanted to go that path, I had that option, but I never did, and that was a smart move for everybody. And we're entrepreneurs, and we're moving forward. So you're building this massive Helix Wireless brand right now. What are some of your challenges? I mean, we were kind of briefly talking about salespeople and things like that. What's going on in that world right now for you?
Yeah, I mean, so the list is long and distinguished, right? But I think when you look at the problems the potential pitfalls and challenges, right? I mean, you're talking about it's a crowded marketplace. There's a ton of other people that are doing this, and some of them are all the names that the guys like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, right?
Right.
And then there's the other guys. And we're part of that group. We're part of the other guys. There's that A brand, and then there's the other guys who are doing this in the background. And that's our folks like Core and Hologram and Teal and Pod Group and there's 100 more globally.
You just put out your competitors. You're like, here's my.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
I got you. Either way, it doesn't matter. Love it. I love the spirit.
It's the truth. I don't care. I don't. I don't, because listen, they're going to be better in some things, right? But we're going to be the best when it comes to serving the customers and doing it in the way that we've designed this business, that I've designed this business. which I won't tell them how to do that on this podcast.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there will be times where they're going to eat, and I want them to eat, right? Because if there's not good competition, I can't go get better rates either, right?
I talk about this all the time about opening up the market share. Competitors are great. You want competitors because what I've learned in business is what you're kind of, you got to open that market. Whether your competitors are there or not, we're all going to be having our advantages and disadvantages. But, if you put a great customer service company together, you're golden in my mind. That's the way I kind of look at it. So I think you're kind of the same way. How's hiring going with people?
I mean, hiring is tough. I am so blessed. I have the best people, Chad. I really do. And I know everyone says that, you're supposed to say that, but I really mean it. For me, for my business in this moment right now, I have the best people. They're sitting out here right now. And it's been really easy, quite honestly.
Good.
So I think that's where a lot of folks are saying, oh, it's so hard to find good help. And yeah, it is, right? The trick is you have to build your bench before you need to call the player in, right?
Yeah.
If you're waiting, to the ninth inning to bring your closer in, and then you're like, well, which guy is our closer? And baseball reference, and like, well, we think it's going to be this guy today, or it could be that guy, and you're like, well, you don't know. We have the specialists, we know who the people are, and we just put the work in front of them and say, if you're the closer, Chad, that's all you do, right? So go practice that, go work on that, go get better at that, become the best at that, and then come do that here, right? And so we just brought in, 2 gentlemen to build out an MV&E business for us who are incredibly knowledgeable about that space. And that's a mobile virtual network enabler business. So as we look at other companies that maybe sell, garbage cans or something, right? Smart garbage cans.
Yeah.
And they're buying the service from a large carrier or a different carrier, right? Why not enable them to be able to package that solution with their product and then sell their SaaS model garbage can with monthly recurring revenue on the data, and then they own the whole supply chain, right? So they would come in as an MVNO using our license to sell under us. We fully enable them to do that kind of stuff. So it's pretty awesome, right? When you look at the size of that market. And then, we do have our direct B2B sales, and that's really what we focus on, right? Is making the connections with customers, providing value, having the conversations, having the hard conversations, and having those things early and often, right? If you know there's going to be a pitfall, don't wait to talk about it, because that's your expertise,
right?
Right. And if I can tell a short story, I'm going to tell it anyway. You can edit it out, I guess.
We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it.
So we had a client who was looking to do cross country push to talk, right? And there's some latency issues, right? When you talk about doing things that are that far, and you're using different core networks and things. And as soon as I heard what he was going to do, I said, that's going to work, but it's not going to work well.
Yeah.
On the first call. Right. And I said, here's what we can do. I know we can give me, I think I said a few weeks, give me a few weeks. Let me test it. Let me flesh out all the problems. Right.
Yeah.
And then I can present you with how the solution should look and feel.
Right.
So we had to do some things on the latency side just to prioritize traffic. And we did some things on the push to talk app side to increase the latency from 80 milliseconds to 100 milliseconds, which was imperceptible to humans, right?
Right.
But for the device, it made a huge difference, right? When you're doing these group connects with 150 people globally, right, all over the place, those extra 20 milliseconds made a big deal for us, as it turns out. And then I was able to kind of show that solution to them, and of course, it worked.
Right.
And because it worked, because I knew the potential issues we were going to have, and we did spend 2 weeks making it work perfectly, right? It was a much better product for them.
Now let's go back into construction, right? Back in the day, Nextel, right?
Oh,
that was the push to talk. That was like the innovator, right? Wasn't that?
That was the old IDEN network, and that was true. That was true push to talk. That was some cool stuff, man. Honestly, if you think about that technology, and I don't want to talk too much about it today because it's not available anymore. But, but that was such a leap forward in functionality, and my dad's a retired contractor. So, he's a guy that was always on job sites, and He's a bit older, so he started before they had, they were using like regular radios, right?
Right.
And so that was a huge increase in functionality and a huge benefit,
Right.
For all these guys, right? So that was huge, and that's solving a real problem, right, Chad? I mean,
It was.
and that's what we look to do is we like to actually identify the problem,
right,
and solve that thing, right?
So
we don't want to just sell data.
That's kind of like your solution model then. I mean, that's really what you're going into, providing that kind of service. Let's talk a little bit more about the MVO. That's what you were just talking about.
MVNO, yeah. So mobile virtual network operator.
Talk about that, because that sounds amazing. A little bit more in depth if you could.
Yeah, sure. So you have kind of a hierarchy, right? You have an MNO, which is a mobile network operator. Those are your guys that we all know, like Verizon, AT&T, right? Those are MNOs. And then you have a layer below that where we don't own the towers, right? But we just kind of use the towers, right? So then you have an MVNO, and the V stands for virtual, right? So it's mobile network virtual operator, right?
Wow.
So that's the real thing. And when you look at on the consumer side, everyone knows MVNOs. You know Cricket, you know Metro PCS, you know Boost, you know Mint Mobile, right? Ryan Reynolds, and he's got funny commercials, right?
Yeah.
So that's on the consumer side, right? We're a B2B MVNO, MVNE. So we don't really sell to consumers. Wouldn't be synergistic with our business.
Right. That's kind of where you and I started talking about working together, collaborating, because the infrastructure and the sewer water distribution stuff that I'm involved in, it's becoming a big place. That, which is great conversation that we're talking today, because our issue in connecting with sensors and using sensors is trying to get a cell signal outside the manhole. And that we have cast iron old manholes all throughout the country. I think there's 20 some million. And, they can't get any signal on these devices. So especially if it rains or it sits over top, the antennas aren't always dependable. Like, we have a massive issue with that. So how's the connectivity, like, with going into 5G? Can you talk a little bit about, like, how we're going to maybe change our, the connectivity of these units, these sensors and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I think, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, and I'd like to probably spend a little bit more time looking at the problem, quite honestly. But you have radio frequency signal, and there's things that radio frequency doesn't like.
Right.
Water is one of them, right? So if you have a receiver underwater and a signal coming from above the water, like, good luck, it's just not going to work, right? And then you have other things like, steel and cast iron, which are not really permeable from an RF standpoint, right? So I think there's a few challenges, but there's always ways to engineer a solution and make it, something that is both intelligent and repeatable. So not something where you're taking a wire hanger like I used to do in the old days and hang out the window on my little 5-inch TV to watch the baseball games, right? I mean, so that's a solution that works, right? But is it intelligent and repeatable? Like, you could fall to your death. Like, that's probably not the best thing to do, right? But I think if we look at the problem and we can really understand and spend some time really thinking about, where we can put this antenna, right? And we've done things underground before with powered antennas where we're running the antenna maybe a short distance away from the actual device. And if you're looking, I think, right outside my house is a perfect example, right? I have a storm drain and I have a sewer cap, and they're close to each other, right? So in a situation like that, it's potential that that big opening in the storm drain is going to let more of that radio frequency in, right? And here I'm solving the problem for all my competitors on your podcast.
That's why we're here. Talk about
That's okay.
Right? So one thing everyone's talking about is 5G. I know we didn't really. And we're talking about putting these little units throughout, like, towns so we can get 5G connectivity, but they're, like little packaged cellular towers, I guess. They put them in light posts and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit more about those?
Yeah, I mean, so when you look at true 5G, right? So there's like marketing 5G.
Okay.
Right, and that's great, and it works, and okay, fine, right?
Okay.
But that's not like true 5G. If you look at what Verizon and AT&T have done in several cities, I think it's up to like 40 or 50 cities. Don't quote me on the number. You have those little boxes, those little repeaters, right? Essentially, those are tiny little mini cell towers
Yeah.
And what they do is they provide the signal. The thing is that those are using something that's called millimeter wave. Millimeter wave doesn't travel very far. So we're traditionally used to using, right? You're used to using your regular cell phone, and essentially that one tower is going to give you like a 2-mile radius, right?
Okay.
So 4 miles in a straight line of coverage. You know, millimeter wave is going to give you a tenth of that.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Wow.
So that's why when you look at the rollout of 5G, true 5G, and one of the reasons why it's going to take some more time, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to get those things out there. And then even when you have folks that have, you know, really big properties, like, you know, imagine you lived on a horse farm in Kentucky and it was 300 acres, right?
Yeah.
What's it going to take for you to get 5G in the back?
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So, it's expensive. Yeah.
So when you look at the proliferation and penetration of 5G, I think it's in its infancy right now. You're seeing these things like 5GE, which is really just like kind of 4G marketed as 5G, kind of on steroids, right?
Yeah.
And that's using a 600 megahertz connection, you know, radio frequency, which travels that same distance from the original cell tower.
Right.
It doesn't require a massive build out every 100 feet, every 200 feet of a new tower, right?
Yeah.
I'm not down on 5G, just to preface this, right? But the reality is for things like machine to machine or IoT devices,
Yeah.
unless you're doing edge computing, I don't see the real value in 5G, right? I mean, so you're talking about, you know, for example, we talk about these sewer flow monitors all the time, you and I, right?
Right.
And so if you're getting your information in 200 milliseconds, right? What's the difference between getting it in 30 milliseconds for a sewer monitor, right? It's negligible, right? It really is, right?
Right.
You're talking about less than a second, right? I mean, and you're also talking about it's still near real time. You're not getting it instantaneously. There still is a delay. There's always going to be a delay, right? But you're talking about near real time to near real time solutions. So when you look at, you know, deploying a only 5G solution, I think 4G is here to stay. I think it's a powerful network. I think for things like machine to machine and IoT devices, it is honestly one of the best networks.
Yeah.
You can do things with low power, and you have CAT-M and NB-IoT opportunities. And 5G is a hog, right? It's a power hog. So if you're talking about putting these tiny little sensors,
about that.
yeah. So if you're talking about putting a tiny sensor with a battery in it, and you want that battery to last 3 years, if you have to connect to that device frequently, you know, 5G might just not be the right solution for you, right? You might want to do something like a low power CAT-M LTE connection, which that battery may last you. You know, we just did a deployment for asset tracking, and we put out these little asset trackers on magnets. It's so cool. And the battery lasts for 3 years, man.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
So, you know, why would you, like, what's the benefit of having to take it off and recharge it and do all these things when you can, you know, if I'm going to ping this thing once or twice a day, this thing's going to last me years.
Right.
It's a single deployment. It's super simple. It's super easy. And, you know, why not leverage, you know, that?
Right. What's your opinion on these smart cities initiatives that are happening? I mean, we're going to spend billions and billions of dollars trying to get autonomous vehicles in these smart cities and stuff down the road. I mean, that's where it's heading. But you're saying that 5G probably isn't the way to go. It's going to be a powerhouse.
So it's funny. You mentioned autonomous vehicles, and 5G, in my opinion, is the only solution to do autonomous driving with, right?
It is. Okay. I didn't know that.
Because you're talking about, you know, what I just mentioned, the latency, right? If you're driving at 35 miles an hour, you know, 100 millisecond delta is tremendous.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The ability to share information to some kind of edge computing for traffic and all these other things, right, is tremendous. That's not a solution that I'm of the belief that 4G can champion, right?
Okay.
Autonomous driving is a 5G solution. You can have, if the manufacturers can all get in a room and have that meeting we talked about and actually agree on something,
right?
And if they all decide to use the same technology, imagine a world where I don't know what kind of car you drive, but let's say you drive a Tesla, and my BMW talk to each other.
Yeah.
And your Tesla is, you know, 100 feet in front of my BMW, and it tells my car through the edge computing network that you're hitting the brakes.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, that's beautiful, right? And you talk about accident mitigation, you talk about traffic mitigation, right? All these things. And then when you actually get into autonomous driving, you have these vehicles that are actually speaking to each other
Right.
and not just looking at the road and saying, that guy slammed his brakes on, right? What they're saying is, oh, this car is broken down a mile and a half ahead of me, and it's resulting in all this traffic to back up, and you can immediately kind of divert around that. I mean, I'm in the shadow of New York City and Philadelphia, so I find myself driving in these cities at least a few times a month, right?
Right.
And when you're sitting in that traffic and it's because a bus broke down or whatever it may be,
Right.
I mean, that's awful, right? You're sitting there for hours. You don't know how to really get around it, and that real time traffic that I get in my car is about 20 minutes delayed usually, right? So by the time I've been sitting here for 20 minutes and it goes, oh yeah, make a left here and get around it, right? That's not always the easiest or best solution, but yeah, 5G is going to change the game on things like autonomous driving. I think it's going to make it a lot safer. I think it's going to make it a lot better. But that said, the garbage cans that you drive by on the street that tell the trash compactor when to come pick them up, right? That 4G is great for that.
Yeah.
Right.
You can have two systems co-mingle together, basically, just work together but it sounds like they want to replace 4G altogether.
Yeah, I don't really know. I think 4G is here to stay, quite honestly. I mean, until you start talking about 6G and, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, right? But the big carriers are already planning for 6G, right? It takes, 10 years to even, kind of contemplate these technologies and things. But
right.
But the reality is that 4G is a beautiful network. It's an awesome network. It covers, 98% of the country, right?
Yeah.
So if you're talking about having something you're going to walk out of the house and use, you're going to use it every day. It's 4G for now. I do think in the next 2 to 3 years, you'll be able to say it's 5G.
Yeah.
But there's certain things like we talked about, those low power solutions.
Yeah.
5G is so far from that right now, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. You can always do the test too. I don't know where you live if you have 5G near your house, but put the 5G on your phone.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And just browse the internet for like an hour.
Yeah.
And look at your battery. Check your battery before you start and check your battery when you're done.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And then do the same thing on 4G, and you're going to see pretty much the same content, right? Because the internet's not giving you that content any faster than the phone can download it anyway.
Right.
When you go on YouTube, it's not going like, oh, hey, Chad, you're on 5G, so I'm going to give you a 30 millisecond connection, right? No, you're still waiting the same time for the website to load, right?
Yeah.
I think it actually makes it more apparent how slow the data is coming to you.
Yeah.
Right? Not in the sense of how slow you're downloading it, because you're downloading it much faster, but it's not being presented for you to download any faster than it is today, right? So as all of those kind of networks start to catch up to the slow latency environment that we're headed towards, that instantaneous type connection, I think that's when 5G is really going to start flexing its muscle, is in that environment.
Okay. That's very interesting you said it. So we got like 3 minutes left. Want to talk about more of like your business, what you offer service wise, kind of, go on a 3-minute pitch, like we do for investment. And what at Helix, what are we offering? What's out there? Obviously, you and I need to come back and connect again because I have a lot more questions, but we're out of time for this one. But
Sure.
Go ahead and talk more about Helix.
Yeah, so what we provide the Helix Smart SIM, which is a global IoT data-only SIM. It connects to over 700 networks globally, over 2,100 actual network types, including like 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. It really enables you to put it into a tablet or a sensor or some kind of device, machine-to-machine device, and simplify the deployments. So one of the things we've really looked at is how can Helix make your business deployment easier, right? So, for example, if you're selling sewer cap monitors or sewer flow monitors and you're putting them in 2 different countries, well, you have to get multiple carriers just to do that, because you may have situations where you want AT&T here, or you want T-Mobile, or you want Verizon, or you want someone else. Our SIM card allows you to work on all of those networks simultaneously, and if the device has the ability to pick the network that's best available in that moment, and the SIM allows them to connect there. So it's an eSIM technology, it's an UICC technology. It works absolutely beautifully. It's so cool. And then that you can look at that same solution, and without having to add another SKU into your own ERP, you can sell that solution into Europe or you can sell a solution into Africa or Asia or somewhere else in the world, and Helix is your supplier throughout your entire supply chain, right? So we really simplify that. So you get all of those countries on a single bill, right?
Right.
Just spoon-fed to you. We even do pricing based on continents from time to time if there's a need for that. So you can really simplify your rollouts by not having to say, okay, I'm paying X for this country and Y for that country. And this is, you have all these different machinations that people have to do when they're rolling out their own products.
Right.
Helix sees themselves as a partner in your success, right? We don't just want to be the data provider. We want to figure out what it is that you need, how we can help you the most, and then deliver that.
Yeah, that's amazing. You guys are changing the game completely. I love it. And you guys, like, I know you, and I was talking to some of your sales guys and stuff, and it's great. They're great at just following up, customer service. They're always on top of things. I'm sure if I text Ed, I work with Ed sometimes, I'm like, he's always checking his, responding back pretty quickly and stuff like that. So I love it, man. You guys are doing a great job. And if you had to sum everything up in this world right now, as far as SIM cards go, what would you say, last minute?
Yeah, I mean, so listen, eSIM is the future, right? In 2020, we saw a 300+% global shipment, not just of Helix, but overall of eSIMs globally, right?
Wow.
eSIM is the future. When you're talking about B2B, you're talking about a lot of complex things. Why make the simple complex, right?
Yeah.
We make the complex simple. When you go through these processes, you're bidding on a contract or whatever it may be, and you have all these other things you have to work with. You have to work with contractors and enablement people and contract people, and there's just these huge markets, and it's just crazy working with these cities, right? There's 100 people to talk to. Why would you want to talk to 5 different carriers, right? Talk to us. We're going to simplify it. We provide you with one thing, super easy, and that's really where we have the most value, right? Is you're doing your own thing. You shouldn't have to learn my business to do your thing, right? Just because you need data connectivity, you shouldn't have to go work at Verizon for 10 years to figure it out.
You should not. That's what I loved about your solution, and I look forward to definitely working together with you and us, just fixing sewer and water problems that are out there. So you and I will definitely be working together in the future here at some point in time, and I appreciate your time. And what's your website address? Like, what's the website?
Yeah, it's Helix, Helix wireless.co.
.co. Got it. I made a mistake with .com this morning. So
yeah, that is not us.
Got it. No worries, brother. Well, thank you so much for your time, John, and thank you for being here. And I'm sure we'll be connecting soon in the future.
My pleasure. We'll talk soon.
See you, John. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Infrastructure Hot Seat Podcast. We hope that this show brought you some insight on relevant topics within the infrastructure world. Please join us every 2 weeks on Tuesday for the next episode. If you're interested in being a guest on this podcast, please set up a 15-minute interview with your host at calendly.com/Chad Smeltzer.